Hi, I'm Lisa from A Sewing Life and sewnlife.com. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've got a lovely video here for you today. It is jam-packed full of top sewing tips. The interesting thing about this video is that it is all from male sewers. I did a video about 4 or 5 weeks ago and all the contributors were ladies, and I hadn't consciously decided to just ask ladies, but a couple of people had commented, where are the male sewers? And I sort of thought, actually, that is very true. Why have I not got any male sewers in here? So I went about contacting different male sewers to see if they would be happy to contribute. And very luckily, there are 11 of them here who were very, very generously given their time to contribute to this video. So they've all given their top tips. Some have given a couple of tips, and they are really, really diverse range of tips that they've given. So there's some people who do more tailoring. There's somebody who is a quilter and a crafter. They're from all different areas of the world. We've got people from the UK, people from America, Germany, and France as well. So there's, worldwide. There are 3 people who have been on the Great British Sewing Bee, 3 of the men, which is, I'm sure, was an absolutely amazing experience. Generally, they all have such a huge amount of knowledge and talent. I have linked all of their details below, so you can go and check out all of their social media accounts and their websites, everything else, so that you can see what they have to offer, because they do have an enormous amount to offer. So I really hope that you enjoy this video. I've really enjoyed putting it together, and getting their feedback and their videos has been great, really, really enjoyable, and I've learned a lot from the tips that they've given. So I hope that you enjoy it too, and I really hope that you get lots and lots of tips and helpful information out of this video.
One sewing tip that I have learned recently helps with hems. Doing hems can be really tricky to fold it over, but this tip, you can either use your sewing machine or your serger, will make it easier and just make the hem more crisp and more even. I'm going to show you how it works. I love to use my serger for this. How I do it is I just serge all the way down the edge that I am going to fold over to make the hem. If you're going to use your sewing machine, you can just do a zigzag stitch. Next, I fold over not once but twice the edge of where I'm going to make the hem. Make sure that the serge edge is all the way inside, and then I just do a simple straight stitch all the way down that rolled over hem. I really like this method because it creates a stabilized edge, so it's easier to fold over, it's easier to work with, and it just makes the seam more crisp, more even. And after I'm finished with my straight stitch, this is what I have, a folded over, crisp, clean hem, thanks to my serger.
Hi there, my name's Tony. I'm a maker and a postman from Cornwall in the UK, but you probably know me better as one of the finalists on Series 9 Great British Sewing Bee. When asked to come up with some tips or tricks for new sewers or existing sewers, for me it was simple. Something that I overlooked for quite a long time, but it's invaluable and something that I do on every single make now, and that's pins, but lots of pins. I make lots of shirts, so I don't think you can ever have too many pins in a sleeve when you're easing it in. Example, this that I'm making at the moment. If you think you put too many pins in, put some more in. You'll get a really nice finish. Obviously, pin, 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 and then press, press, press. Cheers.
Hey everybody, it's Ian the Off-Kilter Crafter. I hope you're having a great day today. My tip is finished is always better than perfect. It can feel so frustrating as we're working on projects to not get something right. If we make a mistake or our seams aren't aligned, it can feel really frustrating, but we can't let that stop us from finishing out that project. It's always better to have a completed project that's able to be used or displayed or whatever we're doing with it. It's always better to have a finished project rather than letting just fabric lay around. Now, I'm definitely guilty of wanting all my seams to be perfectly aligned and all of my lines to be crisp and beautiful and all the things, but it's not really possible to make that all happen because who's perfect? It is okay to have those imperfections, and sometimes that's what makes a handmade item so beautiful. are those little imperfections in your work. So remember, guys, it's so important to finish a project and have something that's beautiful that you made by hand, stitched or sewn or however you're doing it, an item made by hand that you can then either share with your friends and family or keep it for yourself. And trust me, from my own personal experience, 99.9% of the time, people will not notice any of the imperfections that you have in your project. In fact, if you're giving a gift to a friend, family, or loved one, they will not see it, and they will love that you spent the time working on a project just for them. So embrace those imperfections and finish those projects. And always remember, normal is just a setting on the dryer.
Hi there, my name's Adam, my channel is Adam Sews, and the lovely Lisa from A Sewn Life asked me if I would like to share with you one of my top tips, which I find really helpful when I'm sewing in my sewing room. And the top tip that I've got for you today is press your hems on your flat pieces of fabric before you construct your garment. I find this makes so much more sense when you're actually putting the garment together. You can measure your hem while the piece of fabric, whether it be a sleeve, whether it be the bottom hem of a back panel of a bodice, the front of a bodice, or whichever it is, if you press your hem before you construct the garment, you can still flatten it out to actually sew up your side seams or sew up the underarm sleeve of a garment. But then the minute you sew those side seams, you can automatically flip your hem up and it's perfectly measured, and you don't have to try and press a hem in the round. And that's my top tip for you.
Hello, I'm Matthew, and my piece of advice for sewing would be you can follow and learn the skills that you need, but remember that that's not the only way to do it. Play, find your way of sewing, find your way of evolving the skills. There's not one set way to do something, so play, have fun. And then my other piece of advice would be use whatever fabric you want. The pattern may say to use cotton, but why not try something different? Try something that fits you and fits the style that you want. Just because it says one thing doesn't mean you have to do it. So play, have fun, and be adventurous. Bye.
Hi, my name is Sebastian. I'm a bespoke tailor for menswear, and as a professional I do a lot of hand stitching, and maybe you tried this at home and you noticed that it can be very frustrating because you end up with a knot after every single stitch. And this is why the machine threads nowadays are made very flexible so that they run easily through your sewing machine on high speed, and that after this the finished seam is that flexible that it doesn't crack that easily. So this is great for the sewing machine, but not for us for hand stitching. So what can you do? There's a very easy and simple trick. Just take your thread the length you need before getting it into your needle and just pull it like this, and you notice that it loses all its springiness, all the flexibility it had before, and then it's very, very easy to work with it. So give it a try, and I'm pretty sure that this is something that makes sewing and tailoring life much more easier. I wish you all the best, and goodbye.
Your sewing machine will come with loads of different feet. You'll probably be able to buy lots of extra feet as well. So do explore those. Some of them might look quite scary, but get some scrap fabric and have a play around. Now, at the moment on my machine, I've just got my regular sewing machine foot. What I want to do, I'm making a shirt jacket here, and on the collar and down the front, I want to put some top stitching about 1/2 centimetre or about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Makes it look nice, it makes it nice and strong, and it gives it a bit of detail as well. But doing it by eye can be quite tricky, so you can get an edge stitch foot, which looks like this. So it looks like a fairly regular foot, but what you've got is this extra little piece of thin metal down one side, which you can line the edge of your fabric up with. Most sewing machines, you'll find the feet will just pop off really easily. If you've got an older machine, you might have to get your screwdriver out. But if you come down to mine, down here, then there's a little button at the back. Most machines are the same. You just press it and that falls away. We can keep that safe. and just line it up. So there's a bar on the foot, and then there's a little thing it clips into, and you just have to lower your foot, and that's it. The new foot's on. We'll put the thread to the back. Now I want to go all the way down round the collar and round the front. So I'm going to start at the centre back. It's already pressed and ready to go. So I'm going to line the fabric up with the edge of that piece of thin metal which is just down that side. That's it. So if I put my foot down and the needle in, then all I've got to do is keep the edge of my fabric in line with that piece of metal. And you just go all the way around for whatever detail you want to do, cuffs, collars, the fronts, anything like that. And if you come round here, hopefully, I don't know whether you'll pick up on that stitching because it's not clear on the video, but there is, you might just see it. I'm actually using matching thread here, but there is actually a line of nice, neat top stitching around there. So all I have to do now is keep going around anywhere I want to have this top stitching. So do explore the feet. There are loads of feet with your machine. Do have a play around with them.
Hello, my name is Duane McLeod, and you can find me at mainly menswear and also at Holdfast Bespoke on Instagram and also on the web. And I have put together a little tutorial on how to make a flap for a tailored jacket or coat, because let's face it, someday you're going to want to make that blazer. So let's get started. None of this is going to be hard at all, but hopefully this little trick will help you make a better flap. Anyway, so here's our fabric, and I think that maybe you can see I've chalked a blue line across the top here. This upper portion is the portion that's going to kind of slide up into the jetted pocket. You know, you're going to end up trimming this, so don't be skimpy here. Make your life a little bit easier and make this bigger. I'm sort of a metric guy now, so this is 2 centimeters above the line. And this is our little piece of lining. It's just, in my case, just a little piece of cheap polyester. You're going to cut out your fashion fabric, and you will interface the back side of it. And the lining piece, you are going to actually cut on the bias, and that way there's some stretch here. And in the next step, just trim the sides and across the bottom about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch. You just want to make this slightly smaller than your pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. After trimming, it's just a matter of sewing the 2 pieces together, and because this lining is on the bias, you will be able to stretch it while you're sewing to match the size of your flap. Because the lining was cut slightly smaller, your flap is going to naturally want to roll very nicely to the inside, so nothing is going to be visible on the outside. And you are going to want to baste around the edge just to hold all of this in place for the next step. We are getting closer to the end. So this is the best part. You are going to want to take the flap and curl it over your fingers like this. And you're going to place a few basting stitches across the top of the flap. Probably, I don't know, 3 or 4. And what this is doing, it is creating a slight curl to this flap, and that curl will act as a spring. And this flap will always want to hug the body, and it will also want to sort of snap shut every time you use the pocket. So I think that this is just a great little technique that can just improve your tailoring. Anyway, happy sewing, happy tailoring, and thank you for this opportunity. Bye-bye.
Hello there, my name's Clive. I am the owner of We Sew Too and the founder of the Boys Sew Too movement.
I've come in today just to give you little hints and tips on sewing. So at the moment I'm hand sewing a blanket stitch around this lovely ace patch that we have. It's being made for Sophie Aldridge, who was the companion of the Dr. Sylvester McCoy back in the day. Now my tip is to make sure that you're using a really sharp needle, especially when you're going through quite a few layers of fabric. It's important to make sure that you're spacing out your stitches evenly as well. But do you know what, don't worry, if you've gone wrong, unpick it and do it again. I think it's really important to kind of not beat yourself up about making mistakes when you're sewing, because this is how we learn. It is. So we're going to go in evenly, see that needle's nice and sharp, and then we're going to go through the loop, and that is what you call a blanket stitch. It's easy as that. I have already pre-sewn this down to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. But the blanket stitch is purely decorative. So yeah, and also hand sewing is very mindful. It's very good for your mental well-being, and it stops you to pause, take time, and just enjoy the process. Thanks very much. Happy sewing.
Hello, I'm Andrew. Welcome to my messy sewing room. Here are a few tips for sewing with an overlocker. Before folding your cuffs and collars, snip into the seam allowance at the centre, fold one side one way and one side the other way, and this will help reduce the bulk. When you're overlocking into a circle, cut a little of the seam allowance away to help you get right underneath the needle plate to start with a nice clean beginning and a nice clean end. When you're sewing jersey or any light fabric on the sewing machine, always start with the needle down, and this will help to stop the fabric from being dragged into the needle plate. I hope you've enjoyed these tips. You can see me at Sew Andrew.
Hello, my name's Jake, also known as Frequatu on Instagram and TikTok. With my tip, I want to present different stitches that are specially used by tailors, and they're all hand stitches. So I'm going to show you 5 different stitches. The first stitch is called a cross stitch. So basically you're going to be stitching backwards, and it allows you to, for example, to close up seams if you're doing basting as well on a suit or anything that's quite delicate. It also allows you to do hems. So this is typically what's used at the bottom of jackets, of trousers, and it really gives you quite a clean stitch that's almost invisible on the other side. The second stitch is called a herringbone stitch, and this is typically used, for example, inside canvases on jackets. It allows you to create a solid structure for a jacket. As you can see on the way up, I'm pointing my needle upwards to the left, and on the way back down, I'm doing the opposite. So that gives that kind of V shape to my stitches. Next stitch is called a pick stitch, and this is typically used by tailors on lapels. As you sew, you insert your needle into the fabric, and then you immediately stitch right next to the stitch you just made. So basically the stitch ends up disappearing on one side. This stitch is a chain stitch, so I'm doubling up the thread on my needle. And the reason I'm doing that is not only because it actually reinforces the stitch. Every time I insert my needle to the fabric, I'm then also going to go back and reinsert my needle in between the 2 threads of my previous stitch, creating a kind of chain with the thread, which will make a much stronger but also slightly elastic stitch. And for the last stitch, I've actually just created a normal basted line, and I'm leaving a little bit extra thread to make it a very loose stitch. What I'm then going to do is gently open the fabric and cut my thread so that each part of the fabric has a little bit of scrap thread left, and that way I can easily transfer markings from one side of the fabric to the other without having to retrace them by hand.
Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us your comments below so we can hear your top tips as well. And I would recommend that you watch the video of the other top tips next. So I'll see you there. Thanks again. Bye.